good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Minutes with Mpumi. Today's show is about business, money, success, customer success, legacy, and building businesses that are sustainable, that will keep South Africa moving. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's guest is none other than the man who goes by the name of KK Diaz. He's an international business coach, business strategist, and business owner. Not only has he written 3 books, but he has also traveled internationally to speak about what he does, what he will do, and what he keeps on doing. I'm not going to say much about him because he's right here next to me and he will tell you all about it. So if you see yourself growing, especially in business, if you have that desire to really build a big business, then this show is for you. Thank you so much and stay tuned.
There was a guy on American Idols, a singing thing, or was it America's Got Talent? Then he used to do that. He'd speak, I mean, and then say stuff. Aruchaka.
Yeah, So the guy I've been telling you about, right? I'm sure you are saying, come on, where is this guy? Who is this guy? Well, he's sitting right next to me. He's not far away from your screen as well. And here is him. Welcome, KK.
Hi, Mpumi. Thank you very much.
For having on our show.
Of course, thank you.
Okay. So, KK, you are apparently a international business strategist. You have done more than the word great, if there's any other word, the degree of comparison to that. So tell us about your background. I mean, you didn't wake up and become this international business strategist. Where did you start?
I actually don't have a very specific route that I've followed. I just lived my life, I did, I think, wake up a little too late in the future, but a little much later than I should have. And it's one of the reasons why I do what I do, speak to young people and try and share some knowledge in terms of, ideas, routes, possible routes that they could take to achieving their goals. So I'm 39 years old. I was born in 1979. I was born on the Zebediela citrus farm. So I'm a farm boy, I was born in the farm, Zebediela, Kupulukwani, and I didn't get to stay there too long. My dad, I think when I was 2, my dad took us to Mpumalanga. I grew up in Emelo, spoke Zulu my first few years, and then we moved to go to Duza in Nigel when I was 8, 9. That's where I come from. I grew up in the East Rand, Kopinoni, people know me from those areas. And I've spent maybe the last 20 plus years in Joburg in the city. When I started university, which I dropped out of. I know the line of work I do, people are somewhat expected to have degrees, but I don't have a single degree. I'm a very terrible student. At least the academic student, but I learn and I study. I love to learn. That's what I do for a living. I don't have a single official formal education qualification. Again, that's one of the things that I teach and preach out there, that you don't necessarily need one. I'm not trying to tell people not to go to varsity in college to learn, but I just want to tell those who don't have the chance or the resources that it's not the end of the world if you don't.
You say that you woke up a little bit later. So that means you are saying, should there have been an opportunity, you could have done it earlier.
Yeah.
So when is it the relevant time, or when should we start doing the things that we want to do as young people?
I think the sooner we are aware. For example, I was 8, turning 9, when my cousin Vincent and I, Komakwelering, where we started a little business selling sweets in primary school, and there wasn't really a conscious awareness that we were running what people would term a business in inverted commas today. So that level of awakening, I think, I don't know if we blame or say maybe our parents didn't teach us early enough, but one of the things that I'm part of today is a group called Wealth Creators, and we're literally going to schools, going to speak to the 8, the 9-year-olds and the grade 11s, grade 10, 11 and 12s to teach them about entrepreneurship, which when I was back in primary and high school, we didn't have that opportunity. I guess what I'm trying to do is facilitate that knowledge, that awakening, and that awareness of what's happening around us in our world. And I think it's pretty evident that we as South Africans should have woken up a little earlier, and we need to be more awake where we are now, because we're facing so many different challenges. And I think if we don't address those challenges, we're going to be in a worse state in years to come.
So you are talking about creating wealth, you're talking about entrepreneurship in young people, right?
Yeah.
And you have went to the extremes, because you even talk about challenges. You want to prove your point so much that you have went to the extremes of climbing Kilimanjaro, which is the highest mountain in South Africa on the African continent. And you did that without a cent, like you had no money, you had no knowledge, no background whatsoever, but you still went and did that. And the book subtitle says From Afrikaans to African, so tell us about the journey of that. Like, what are you trying to prove? Because I see you trying to prove something. What is the point that you're trying to get across to young South Africans, or even older? Because someone who's 40 might consider themselves young. So what are you trying to prove?
So my purpose in life, which I felt I was very privileged to have found or discovered my purpose, which I've enjoyed my life like you can't believe, since I knew why I was born, why I was brought onto this earth. And that is to help entrepreneurs to truly achieve wealth and prosperity and happiness in their lives. And so every day of my life, that's what I focus on doing. I teach, I facilitate, I coach, working with business owners, working with entrepreneurs, working with business people, staff members, young people. And every one of those people have goals that they want to achieve. And a lot of them have attended workshops, they've read books. And what I primarily focus on, what my team and I focus on, we focus on truly shifting people, shifting paradigm, shifting how people think, in order to help them achieve those goals that they'd like to achieve in life. And so I could have held another workshop, right? But I decided, what is it that I can do that is different from what everybody else is doing, that is engaging, that really proves the point rather than just me speaking about it. So then I thought, okay, let me pursue a great goal, right? I could have said, let me start another business to show people how you can start a business. But that would have been boring, right? And it's something I had done before. What I needed to do was to show people that even I myself, I've got things that I haven't done before, that I don't have experience in. So I needed to pursue a goal that I hadn't pursued before. It needed to be a very big goal. And I needed to prove that you don't need money and resources to start, right? And so that was my point, and that's why I chose climbing Mount Kilimanjaro as that example, as a metaphor. Literally, it's something I was going to do, literally, but it was also a metaphor that you may have big goals in your life that you want to achieve, and you may have excuses or reasons for not pursuing them, such as I don't have money, or I don't have experience. So I use Kili as a way to prove that those are just excuses. You can overcome, you can achieve your goals and overcome those challenges, and that's what I did. And so the whole point was not to use my own money, because I could afford the trip, but I decided it wouldn't have been truthful in teaching the principles that I was teaching. And I pursued climbing Kili. I summited. I did look for sponsors. I found sponsors. I failed in looking for those sponsors. I changed my tactics. I used the right tactics that got me the funds, and obviously got people to train me. So Mam Tandindlovu, Dr. Tandindlovu, who owns Mateo Construction, helped me with that. Phenomenal woman. She coached me through the climbing of Kili. Part of what I was saying is, I wasn't saying go without experience. I was saying you can start even without experience, but get experience along the way.
So Umam Tandi, and in this journey of you climbing Kili, was like a mentor,
yes,
right? A coach, right? And you are saying that, so you didn't have the resources, but you still needed guidance. The book I'm reading now, which is The Richest Man in Babylon, talks about how it's so important for young people to get coaching, to get mentoring, to stop doing things without knowledge. So climbing Kilimanjaro was not that you just go and do things, but you think them through and you don't make excuses. Is that what you think? That's where the great goal comes in.
Yes. So the big teaching, I guess, is don't wait to start and wait for things to be perfect before you start. Don't wait for the funding. Don't wait for until you have 10 mentors, until you have all the experience in the world around a particular career path or a business goal that you have before you start. Because a big part of your learning comes from you starting without the knowledge, without the experience, without knowing what to expect. But it's important that you get advice and you get mentorship and coaching from other people who can help you. It could easily be your friends, elders in your family. It could be people online, you know. It could be books that you read. But it's important that you get live, real-time coaching. It's also been known that mentoring and coaching increases your chances of success by up to 70%.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in that book that you've written, which is The Climb, you came back and wrote a book called The 8-Game Business Blueprint, right? And in that book you talk about vision, mission, and someone might think, obviously, you know, a business needs that. But the last part of the book really focuses on building a sustainable legacy business.
Yes.
How do I know if, as a young entrepreneur, that my business will have a legacy and it will be sustainable when I'm just starting to climb that mountain? You know, how will I know that I will get there? How do I plan the legacy from there? Because to young business owners, it doesn't sound realistic. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing now, never mind legacy.
True.
So how would you advise that this is what you should be focusing on when you start in order to focus on that legacy?
Thanks for the question. I hope I'm not going to contradict myself or contradict you when I answer the question. But at the end of it all, the least we can do is plan, right? You never truly know if you will create a legacy. I mean, one of the stats or the facts is that a great majority of business people or businesses fail, right? And it's not just small businesses. You don't have to look far. In this country, we've got juggernauts, big industry leaders that fail. And things are changing at such a pace that sometimes it's pointless to plan 5 years ahead, right? But at least have some vision in place. You have to at least be able to know what you are doing in the next 3 days, the next 5 days, you know, the next couple of months at least. You know, there's only so much projection and planning that you can do in the immediate future. So at least have a plan in mind, but know that no plan is truly guaranteed. One of the lessons that I'd like to borrow from The Climb that I share with readers of the book is, an example is when we were climbing Kili, right? If you kept looking at that mountain, at that peak where you're supposed to be summiting, you get overwhelmed a lot. You start getting scared, you start doubting yourself. And so one of the lessons that we teach is look at the next step that you need to take. You know, the other thing is if you keep focusing there, you're going to trip and fall, right? So it's important that you can plan ahead, but you must focus on the steps that you're taking today in order to get you to the next milestone.
So what you're teaching is that the bigger picture is always important. And having a plan does not mean that you should follow it step by step. It's like a guide. Because what I've realized is that a lot of young people, we quit when we are actually at that starting point, you know, the first 3 years, and then you feel like things are not going according to what the media says they should go according to, and that means I'm not on the path. So when is it advisable to say you should really relook your business, you know? Because we think our breaking point or our blow up is going to come in the next 12 years. Simply because we're going through those years, we think, it's the path, you know, trust the process, you know. But when is it, even if this was the process, this stage is really not going, like, I'm not even on the right track. Does that come in with having a mentor, or you just naturally know it? How did you know that, you know what, I am going to get to the summit, even if I'm looking at just at these steps?
So I would love to come here and pretend that I'm Mr. Know-it-all, right? I've had many failures in my own life, both in business and in my personal life, you know, through my divorce, you know, not having been the best dad I could have been to my son and my 1-year-old daughter. So I've had my own failures, you know, I still do. The best I can do is plan, right? Is plan, seek advice, seek counsel, and learn from other people's mistakes and make the best of the situation that I'm presented with. And young people or anybody that's planning to pursue any important goals in their lives, whether they're starting a business or pursuing a career or going into a relationship, it's very important that you be truthful, you be honest with yourself, you be truthful and honest with the other people, and and have a plan that is, I think that is ethical, that is pure. You have a better chance, because when you make plans like that, the universe aligns with you. And so it's about working with the universe, working with people who are around you, and seeking new people who will help you get to the next level. Again, I wish I could say that this is it.
Yeah.
I have a blueprint, right? I've developed a methodology in the A-Game business blueprint. It's the best possible route that one can take. It's not necessarily the route. It's also not necessarily the best route, right? Because it is a pretty sophisticated methodology, so it's not going to work for everyone. But that's the best I could have presented, to say this is a plan that I followed. This is a plan that I've seen hundreds of successful entrepreneurs follow. Some have failed while doing some of the things that we mentioned in the book, right? But the book and the methodology and what we teach is try these best practices, follow them. It'll improve your probability of success. It's about belief. It's about ensuring that you're doing more of the right things and doing them the right way, as best as possible, and remaining focused and disciplined. One thing young people or anybody that's pursuing anything that's important and big, don't take things lightly, and don't underestimate how much time you have available, or rather overestimate. We tend to do that. We think, I'm still young, I've got another 10 or 20 years ahead. You may not. We don't know what this country is going to be looking like in the next 3 to 5 years. The best you can do is focus. Yeah.
So you talk about two very important aspects, which is honesty and truth, right? What is that? Like, what is being honest? A lot of people have mentioned that we have to be truthful to ourselves. We have to be honest with ourselves. But as young people, research has shown that suicides, peer pressure, all those things, they're coming even with starting businesses, which is the side that is least talked about. How do I remain true in this society? How do I remain honest in this society when there are so many voices? There's so many voices. So what does staying true means?
So I have to clarify that I'm not necessarily a life coach, right? I have life coaches in my life who help me with my own life and remaining in integrity and aligned with my principles. It's not easy. People mislead you. I think we also mislead ourselves sometimes. But it's you can only get back to the truth if you're an honest individual in being aligned to that truth. That's all I can say. I strive every day to be ethical, to have integrity, and to treat people the way I would want to be treated. That's my truth. I don't know what your truth is. So whatever your truth is, it's about you remaining aligned to that and not be shaken. Choose something to stand for, because they say if you stand for nothing, you fall for everything. That's all I can say. Find your truth and just stick to it.
So in that book, which is the A-Game Business Blueprint, you came with a super book, which is Sales and Marketing, right? And this is where you really talk about, like, if you are in business, you have to be making money.
Sure.
If you are in business, you have to be having processes in place, systems in place.
Yes.
So, like I say, we are entrepreneurs, young, and we are starting out. When are those things really relevant? Because right now, I just want the next to pay my bills. I just want to make sure that I pay my staff, How important is the process? Where does it come in? Just take us more about that throughout that whole segment of sales and marketing, especially in South Africa.
Sure. If you don't mind, I feel like I didn't do justice to your previous question around the legacy component, right?
Okay.
So one of the first things that you'll only be aware of, especially when you're starting out, because a lot of us don't have context when we're starting out, or at least enough of that context. There's something called a business model that is extremely important. The way that you design your business model is not necessarily based on your product and service, right? Your product and your service is not your business. It's the offering. There's something called a business model which dictates the sustainability of the enterprise itself. So that's where you start if you want to improve the probability of that business lasting. right? Lasting beyond you, lasting beyond your technical expertise, because you want to build a kind of business that doesn't rely on you. So that's where you start, from a framing and design perspective. And then there's a whole host of things that needs to come into play to help support that. Now, going back to the recent question you asked, known as the lifeblood of any business. Without sales, or without paying customers, the business is not going to survive. That's the very first place I think most small startups and SMEs really need to focus on, because it's about having enough runway and having enough money to, to keep you going financially. At least 6 months. I know it's not easy for most small businesses, but it's about making that your core strategy, or the main focus, until you have 3 to 6 months worth of runway. 3 months is actually not enough, but it's about grinding. It's about getting your sales in, and the book is not just for SMEs. It's for managers and directors of large corporates from a sales and marketing perspective. But we've really taken the concepts and put it together such that new or young professionals can understand. At least you need to have some context, and then for senior and matured sales and marketing professionals, what we've done is we've taken fragmented concepts, we've put it in a very sequential methodology where you can implement certain processes supported by whatever existing systems you have, whether you have CRM systems, you have cloud-based systems, whatever the case may be. But there's a foundational methodology that we've put in the book from a sales and marketing perspective that I think a lot of people will enjoy, and it'll help solve a lot of problems and a lot of anxieties, because there's a whole host of new things that are needed now in business in order to be more competitive. So we share information that helps businesses to grow their sales, their revenue, and to improve their marketing.
So how do business owners keep track of that? Like how do I know that I am making sales, right? But even in making sales, maybe let's say 40% or 60% I am making sales. Even in making those sales, how do I know that the business is really growing and coming up with that business model that is not actually the business or their service or their product?
Look, that's why people like me and my team exist. We are in business to help other businesses. So it's about seeking counsel. It's about speaking to your accountant. When you plan and say, this is where I'm planning to be in the next 6 to 12 months, get different experts' opinion and comments to ensure that your plan actually makes sense and it's got all the different components that it's supposed to have. A business strategy or a business plan, or a plan in general, is supposed to be smart. It has to be specific. It has to be measurable, right? So that you can keep track of your progress along the pursuit of that goal, right? So it has to be measurable, and it has to be attainable. It has to be realistic, and it has to be time bound. You have to have a time. So as you are progressing towards achieving your goal, you need to be able to measure and track, to say, this is what I'm planning to do, or this is what we're planning to do, and this is how far we are. Or else it becomes a useless plan if you can't track and measure. But it's about, in a lot of cases, you as the person who's putting that plan together, you have an idea of what the benchmarks are and what those the criteria that you should be measuring to ensure that you want to succeed. And it's also about keeping things as simple as possible.
But you guys don't come cheap. Like you guys, you do help. I mean, you do have your CSI programs.
Yes.
But I believe that if people really want help, they need to be willing to pay the price. If you want to lose, I mean,
Yes.
But you guys don't come cheap.
We are also not the most expensive. We're very accessible.
Of course.
We are very accessible, and I'd like to believe that we are worth the money, because the impact, so the feedback that we get from the market is that they get a lot of impact in the shortest time available compared to our competition. So you pay for the value. You get the value that you're paying for. And the way that we work predominantly with small businesses is our services actually help you to pay for our services. The whole idea is what return on investment would you like? Talking about customer success is, we always look at our clients and ask them what is their desired outcome, what is their success that they want to achieve, and whatever proposal we give them is based on us being able to truly help them achieve that goal. And ultimately, a lot of those tend to be to include being able to afford our services. But we're not expensive. We just, I guess, in a lot of cases, businesses, which is happens incorrectly. People who start businesses don't include consulting and advisory services as an expense line in their planning. They leave it well. They don't even leave it blank. They have no line in their budgeting and planning to say, I need to go and pay for someone who's an expert who can help me with 1, 2, 3. In the, from the word go. From the word go.
So those people, do you think they understand the need for it? Because remember, this is educational, We are starting out, like you said, in South Africa. We are far behind, and do we even think that we do need it? I mean, in the conversation we had before this, we're talking about owners of different types of businesses, what people go into businesses for different reasons, so
Yes.
do people know that they need that?
A lot of people don't. In the same way that I didn't know I needed so many things when I was climbing Kili, right? The best way is to ask people who've climbed Kili before, to say, okay, what do I need when I'm climbing Kili? And then they advise me. And to speak to as many people as possible, to get second opinions and so forth. I had Mamtandi and her team helping me, right? Who were all women, by the way, which I was very fortunate with. And then I'd speak to other retailers. I'd speak to the guys who were facilitating the tours and the trips. I will ask as many people as possible. I'll go on Google. I'll watch videos. I'll watch documentaries. I'll read books. It's about getting all the different opinions and input in order to make sure that I'm covering as much as possible. And another very important thing to do is not to be overwhelmed or to be trapped by analysis paralysis. Because sometimes we do that. We overplan and we overanalyze to try and make sure that the route that we're taking is the best. A lot of the learning really comes on the way.
In the doing.
In the doing, yes.
So going back to one of your books, right? You talk about, and you even mentioned him, Vincent.
Yes.
And you wrote a story about how you and Vincent grew up in the same space, but you became two different people,
Yes.
right? So you even mentioned in the book that Vincent, as a child, because he was darker in complexion, I mean, he was told that he's going to be a very dangerous person, and he actually became that person, And you guys talk about educating young people, and cyberbullying and all those things are going around in the country. So how are you making sure that with that, business owners, how are we keeping the self-confidence and the self-esteem? Because if you're going to create someone who's going to want to create wealth for themselves, they need to be confident. They need to have a sense of self-esteem. How are you guys ensuring that in the schools that you are going to?
Look, the best we can do is share what we know works, right? Which is focus on personal development. You and I can't help people if we don't help ourselves first, right? We need to develop ourselves. We need to read. We need to learn. Go to the classes. Go to the workshops, right? It's the best way to become a better version of ourselves. To work on our self-esteem issues. I'm doing new things in my life right now in my business, and I still wake up, sometimes I doubt my ability, right? And I'll speak to my coach, I'll speak to my friends, I'll speak to my colleagues, and they'll give me the pep talk that I need to hear. So all I'm saying is that never truly goes away, but you learn tactics that can help you to overcome that. But it's important to learn, to develop, to have an attitude of continuous improvement. I think that's the best I can say. I think Vincent had his own truth. He had his own reality. I didn't. I spent 3 years of my primary school living with him and my aunt under my aunt's home, and that home is different to my mother's home and my dad's home where I grew up. We all have different truths. In the same way that my younger brother turned out nothing like I did, but we were raised by the same parents. You know what I mean? It's about being yourself, having your truth and following your truth, and being as sure as possible that the truth that you're following, you've done at least some research. Because a lot of young people tend to be directionless and still believe that wherever they're going is the right route to be going. Do your thing, but seek counsel, seek advice from people who've been there before you.
You also mentioned, that is a very powerful point, and you talk about in your family, it's only who you came about to be. It's not the same as your siblings, right? And obviously you had to do a lot of sacrifices. Your family had to understand the person you are, because it's not usual in the black community. So how did you keep up with that? Like, maybe your family is thinking you're not coming home often, or you're not spending a lot of time with them, or you're not sending as much money as they would have wanted to, but you knew, and like staying to your truth, that I have my truth and I want to follow the truth. How did you keep to that?
Women have something called women intuition. I think we as men also have it, right? At least to some degree. And all it is sometimes we refer to it as your gut. When you have that feeling inside here and it's the truth, regardless of what people are saying, that's what I had to guide me, and I still do today. So it's something that you also develop parallel. As you are developing yourself, your intuition and your inner voice also develops, and it becomes loud enough for you to be able to hear when you need to hear it. But it's about listening, paying attention, and again, knowing your own truth and following your truth. That's what I did. It doesn't mean that I was going to succeed. I guess it's the stubbornness that entrepreneurs are known to have, and also other people who follow different careers. There's a certain level of discipline, but I think stubbornness as well, where it's clear here you're gonna fail, but it's about trying. I mean, you look at guys like Elon Musk. Elon Musk, everything that he's trying now, nobody has tried it before, or rather, those people who've tried it, a great majority of them have failed. And so that's everybody's reality, that we failed. Everybody who's tried with much more money, much more resources, and much more time and experience and expertise have failed. What makes you think you're gonna succeed? It's about listening to your truth and continuing to follow that truth.
Which is so important.
I wouldn't say regardless. You have to take their truth into perspective as well, because some of your family members could be people who are experienced in the thing that you are pursuing. It's about listening. It's the first thing, because you and I can hear the same thing, but we will process it and consume it differently. You understand what I mean? Yeah, that's the best I can advise, is take it as your truth, take it through your filters and process it as you would normally process other things, and just take the step that your intuition tells you is the one you should take.
So take us to the customer success, right? Yes. Like, how do I ensure that there's repeat business? I'm starting and I need to have the right communication skills. I need to make sure that this person comes back to me if they want the same service, they refer someone. How do I ensure this customer service? If there's a step-by-step you want to share, anything like that, just take us to that, because I think that's important if you're in business. True. I mean, for someone buying your product or your service the first time doesn't really count. It's when they come back, right? And you have a relationship with them. That's when it will count. So how do we keep making sure that there is that repetition?
So in the third book, the A-Game Sales and Marketing Manual, we talk a lot about that. Excuse me. And it's part of our customer relationship management methodology, which is how do you from the word go, how do you help prospective customers before they even become customers? How can you help them to overcome certain challenges or get the type of information that they're looking in them making the right decision, whether it's buying your product or buying a related product or whatever the case may be. So there's a certain methodology. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time for me to take you through it. But at the end, it's an 8-step process. Towards the end of the methodology or the interaction with your customer, at least for the first time, you must ask how the client experienced the service and the product, right? That's how you are able to then either upsell them more services or more products or other offerings, or rectify the problems that they may have experienced in the hope that they will come back, right? So that in our eyes, that is customer relationship management. And then there's another concept called customer success. In a lot of cases, businesses, what they know best is to sell products and services to their customers. But one key question that they hardly ask is, what does it mean for you to buy this product? What are you actually trying to achieve? Right? Your success that you'd like to achieve by buying our products and services is different from somebody else. Right? And it's about being aware that every customer has different desired results, desired outcomes that they'd like to achieve. Now, customer success is based around the concept of finding out, putting measures in place in order to ensure that my customer achieves the level of success and the desired results that they'd like to achieve, as well as the experience that they'd like to achieve, and ensuring that we deliver on that. That's what customer success is. But I would highly recommend that people who are new to these concepts start with, for example, customer relationship management first as a concept, and then customer success. That's how I found logically it tends to make sense. If you start with customer success, maybe one may understand, but it's slightly sophisticated. If you call any corporate in South Africa today, you're almost guaranteed that they don't have customer success principles implemented in their business, but they'll probably have customer relationship management implemented in their business. So hence, I would highly recommend start with CRM, not necessarily as a software, but as a principle to ensuring that you improve customer satisfaction and ensuring that you are then, as you mentioned, able to get repeat business from the client. That's where it starts. Ultimately, yes, it is because of customer success principles, but customer success as a concept is very different, slightly different rather.
Wow.
Yeah.
So guys, KK is not just in the business mainstream, but he's also was once actually a music producer.
Yes.
Is that correct? And we know that a lot of rappers in today's world, or music produce people who are in the music industry, have actually turned businessmen, so how is that different, or how is it the same, or what correlates them? Because you are not a business person, you're actually a consulting, you're a business consultant.
Yes.
So you help businesses grow. So you're not just in the business, but you're also helping other businesses grow.
Yeah, 100%.
So you need a very large a very large outlook, because you're not just focusing on one industry. For every business there's different industry. So tell us the difference between that. You were in music, and then here you are dealing with so many different industries.
Yes. So as a young person who was trying to find his path, right, I dabbled in so many different things, right? Yes, from the sweets to fashion. We did t-shirts, we did beanies, we did a whole host of things when we were young growing up. At one point we even had a mobile pizza business where we would provide pizza in areas where people don't have everyday access to pizza. And so there's a lot of things that we've done, small little businesses that we've started. One of them happens to be a record label, and that was the immediate last business that I had pre this consulting business, right? And when I look back, I realized one thing. I've always wanted to help people, right? And I was helping people in that industry. I was helping a different type of entrepreneur. In the music industry, that entrepreneur is a musician, an artist, right? And it was about helping them with the right infrastructure so they can come and record their demos or their albums, whatever the case may be, and helping them get on the right platforms, get them to sell their music online. We were one of the first small online e-commerce stores that sold music for independent musicians. And I look back and I realize I'm doing exactly the same thing in this business, which is to help entrepreneurs get to the next level. So in my mind, business is business, regardless of what industry you're in. I think the differences come in whether, do you want to remain small? And there's nothing wrong with that. Or do you want to grow? Do you want to build a lifestyle business? Or do you want to have a growth business that scales beyond just you and beyond the national borders? It's all business in my mind.
So the business you are in is, when you're a business consultant, you have to go and do the consulting, right, with your team. So you can't stay at home and say it will run itself. How does it then become such a business? Because I think in today's recreational space, where there's so much recreation with business, how do you keep up with that?
Interesting question. Very good question. So how what I've done to ensure my business can operate beyond me is the books that you are referring to are a methodology, are a coaching and consulting methodology that we license to other coaches and consultants. Right? So I'm in a position now where I have independent coaches who've joined our team using the same methodology, and over and above that, we've taken the same methodology and we've converted it into an online course, so people can literally coach themselves without us having to be there using the online course. But when you use the combination of online courses and a coach, and you come to our classes, you get triple the dose, and you are then able to accelerate your business growth. But the point, or rather the answer to the question you ask, is how do I ensure my business operates beyond me? Is I've taken the methodologies that I've been using over the last few years and developed a brand new methodology that I now license to other coaches. That's how my business will continue to run, even when I'm no longer around. Yes.
Wow. So you in the first segment of the interview, you mentioned a lot about failing, like you failed in so many aspects of your life.
Yes.
What is your definition of failure? Because it's so different from other people, and I mean, for school kids, it's a difference between a red mark and a green mark, But for you, and you've been in this industry for so long, and you've been in business specifically for so long, how would you define failure?
I think failure is, more than anything, at least how I see it, is a way that is simply another way that what I'm trying to do didn't work or is not going to work. It's failure is feedback to say what you are trying is not working. Try something else. Not stop what you're doing completely, but go back and review and see what happened, why did it happen, and how can you improve your chances of ensuring that you do achieve your ultimate goal. And it's about, in a lot of cases, about little twists. It's about changing, making small adjustments as you progress. But I can never stop saying, seek counsel. I was with one of my colleagues yesterday. Very, very clever guy, very competent. He's also a coach, and he was telling me about something that he's struggling with. It took me a split second to make a decision, to not a decision, but to give him a piece of advice, right? But that's what happens. Even sometimes when you're too close to a situation, you can't tell the difference between. They say you can't see the forest for the trees for the forest, right? Is you're too close to it, and it takes somebody else, right? Somebody's perspective to be able to say, hey, but there's something here that you don't see. Sometimes it's too close. They say it's too close to you. No, you're too close to it, and you're unable to see it. You know what I mean? So it's always important to seek counsel and ask for feedback, and to avoiding that failure. Or even when you've experienced that failure, don't just sit there and try and fix everything yourself, because the likelihood is that you are going to repeat the pattern or the behavior that caused the failure. So go and speak to somebody else, more than one person ideally, and get different opinions.
Oh. Pure, yeah, that word again. But let's look at big brands, right? You're talking about customer service, you're talking about legacy,
Yes.
And we know now, like, when we are so loyal to certain brands, your Nikes, even deodorant like Mitchum. People who buy Mitchum, I know they don't even think twice. It's, you go to the store and you just pick it up and you just leave. So what do you think about brands like that? What have they done, and what they have done, how is it still relevant? Because there is another age of industry, and there's a new age of industry. Here we have social media, and then we have quick ways of doing things, which, like definitely quick. So what do you think about brands like that?
Look, it took a lot of work for all those companies to be able to achieve the success that they've achieved, and they're continuing to do more of the right things, right? They look at what works and they do more of what works, and they do less of what doesn't work. It's as simple as that ultimately, right? No two companies can do the same things to succeed. There are many companies that were in the same industry, same type of product, one succeed, one doesn't. And both would typically have an established brand at some point, but one can easily end up failing. But it's about doing more of the right things. It's about focusing on customer success, and beyond just your customers. It's about treating your people well. It's one of the things we were talking about earlier. You know, companies that, for example, ensure that their level of staff disengagement is much lower tend to do better, and so they tend to be much more competitive and therefore much more sustainable. So it's about doing a whole host of different things, but ensuring that you do them right. It's about being disciplined and ensuring that the values and the culture that directs or guides the company, again, they are truthful, they are honest, as pure as possible, in ensuring that they take everybody, all the stakeholders into consideration, i.e. it's not just about the company making money, but how else is the company impacting its local communities? How is it supporting small businesses? How is it supporting its people to grow and to develop? And I think it's the companies that tend to focus, to have a holistic approach to life and business that ultimately succeed.
So one of your businesses that you started before your consulting business was payroll, right? And I wanted to touch at this point because you mentioned that you had a staff, big staff, like larger than 10 people working for you, and there had to come a point where you had to let go of each and every one of them.
Yes.
And when you let go of someone, someone won't get bread anymore, and one of the things that you said, and I quote you said, if there's anything I want to do is to help people put bread on their tables.
Yes.
But when you fire someone, you're taking that away.
Yes.
So how do you do it with love? To say, you know what, it's something I have to do. It's not like you enjoy it, but it's something that you really have to do. It has come to that point. How do you then do it and be able to go home and carry on and be this successful even after that?
I think as entrepreneurs, one of the things that we associate to growth and to success is the number of people that we have working for us, right? And I do see that it's also a mistake that young, inexperienced business people and entrepreneurs tend to make. But let me ask that we discuss that at another day. What I will speak to is my scenario, right? There were many reasons why I let go of that big number of people that I was working with at the time. And the most important one was alignment, was the truth and those values and the culture. So, and it was immediately after coming back from climbing Kili, right? When I was climbing Kili, it wasn't just for the benefit of helping other people and to teach these lessons. I was also on a journey where I was learning my own truth and finding my own journey, right? And one thing that I tell people about that trip up Kilimanjaro is that I died up that mountain. I literally died and came back another person. And when I came back as that new person, I realized the type of people that I needed to have in my life and to have in my business. And it needed to be aligned. If there was going to be another Kilimanjaro that I wanted to climb, I needed to have the right kind of people in my life and in my business. And unfortunately, there were a few people who did not belong in that future anymore. And I'm sorry that it does result in some people not being able to now have money on the table, but I carried people for much longer than I should have. It's one of the mistakes that I did, is I gave people an incorrect reality and truth about where we were going. I carried dead weight, and that's the honest truth. I carried people I shouldn't have had in my life, in my business. I needed to let them go if this business was gonna get this far. Remember, this was pre the 3 books, so I am glad that I let go of some of those people, because now there's 3 books. Now there's a whole host of people who have been employed, because I had to make those decisions, and those were my decisions, right? But it's never an easy thing to let people to let go of people, to fire people, whatever the case may be. But I'm glad to see that some of them still come back to me and say, yo, KK, what are we working on now? Can you include us in some of your projects, whatever the case is? Because working with me was one of the greatest experiences, and that's one of the things that I know that each one of them took away with. And they have a much greater probability of succeeding by having worked with us as a team. I look back and I'm sad that I had to let go of some people, but I needed to for my own growth and for their growth. Sometimes you have to do that. Not everybody that you work with is the right people, and you only find out along the way. And people are very great at acting or pretending during interviews in the earlier or at least the first stages of their employment. down the way, you get to see the truth. They get to see their own truth in saying, you know what, maybe I don't belong in this company. And as a leader in my business, I needed to make that decision for everybody involved. And I don't regret having made those decisions. I still do. I still let people go. You know, if people are not picking up their weight, they're not doing the things that we agreed needs to be done in order to take the business and us forward. If that doesn't happen, it's unsustainable. So we need to do what's sustainable, and unfortunately, sometimes it means letting people go.
Wow.
It's like in a relationship, you know. If you remain in an abusive relationship, or a relationship where somebody's always taking from you and never giving in, putting back into the pot, it's unsustainable, you know. And you know what it's like in a relationship, you know. It starts to eat away at you. If the same thing happens in business.
Wow. So, in conclusion, you have recently joined one of the biggest, I don't know what to call it, you will tell us what it is, but it's Wealth Creators, right? And Millionaire Mindset. And every book that you read, every poem that is iterated, every song, they talk about the mind. The Bible itself talks about guarding your thoughts, you know. So tell us a bit about that before we let you go, which is a very sad reality, but everything comes to a stop.
Thanks. So, and thanks again for having me on your show. The Wealth Creators is something I touched on a little earlier. Is the program where we facilitate entrepreneurship programs at schools, especially in disadvantaged communities, in helping kids to start thinking about that wealth for themselves. And it's not wealth in terms of richness, but it's wealth in terms of thinking productively, thinking like an entrepreneur. You know, whether you're going to end up in your own business or not, but it's about always thinking about how do I become a better individual? How do I take my ideas and turn them into reality in helping solve problems in society, in communities and so forth. So that's what Wealth Creators is all about, and I'm happy to be part of that group because, you know, I work with adults a lot, so I needed to be taught on how to deal and to train the kids and scholars. So that's what that's all about. And then the mindset of a millionaire. There's a very successful multimillionaire international coach, speaker, and author from Cambodia. His name is Dr. Alexandra Evenkroon. He's one of the people that I look up to. I recently got a call, funny enough, from somebody locally, right, who was referred to me by somebody in Spain because anyway, the point is I got referred to Alex through somebody in Spain via someone in South Africa. And so I was offered an opportunity to come and be one of the speakers, which I'm very honored to be, at this event called The Mindset of a Millionaire. It's happening on the 21st of July. It's a whole day event, and there's going to be a couple of speakers, myself, Katlego Mabusela, Pamela Niemand, who's Mrs. Johannesburg, Petra Snell, who's a research coach, and obviously Dr. Alexandra Evenkroon. And we are all going to focus on one thing, is how do we help people to overcome self-limiting beliefs, help them break through their challenges and challenges and whatever difficult scenarios and challenges that they may be experiencing. And this event is really for everyone. Students experience challenges and barriers. You know, whether you're a professional, you're a business owner, aspiring, your youth, whatever the case may be, this event is really for everyone. And we've got some great things that we're going to be doing. For example, in my set, there's a couple of things, yes, that I'll cover. But we teach people something that sometimes takes years for people to learn. For example, in karate, it takes about a year to 18 months to learn how to break a board. I'm going to do it in an hour. I'm going to share techniques that help you to overcome and achieve a breakthrough, and people will get to actually break a board, which is very symbolism and a metaphor for achieving that breakthrough. So I really welcome you and your crew and everybody else at home to really come and join us at this event. And we also have other interesting activities that will be happening. Again, they are based around how do we help people think better. They say in order for you to become a millionaire, you have to think like one first. And what we're doing during this event is preparing people to start thinking that way. We're helping people to have and to get a paradigm shift that will help you think more productively and help you to really sustain that that ultimate performance that one is required to, at the level at which one is required to perform in order to become that millionaire. Whether that millionaire is in rands or is in whatever the case may be, but it's about whatever goals you want to achieve. There's a certain way that you must think and behave in leading you to take the right action, and that's what this event is really about. And we've got the best in the industry that are coming to really talk to people about it. It's a whole day event. Again, it's the 21st of July. The event is on Eventbrite, or you can go to agambusiness.com/MOAM for Mindset of a Millionaire, and you'll get the details there. Or you can email me, find me on social media as KK Diaz, look me up, and I'm more than happy to give you the details.
Oh wow. So guys, this is it for today. Thank you so much for coming to our show. We really appreciate it. Like he said, more details is KK Diaz. On Google search engine, just say KK Diaz and everything will come that you need. But this is it for today, and we do hope you have enjoyed the show. Just comment below, like, dislike, and tell us what you think and who you would like on the show next. Thank you so much, and have a great day, evening, morning.